Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to do some real life stories. I'm going to share with you some real life stories that are going to be some real fun things for you to kind of sink your teeth in. Coming right up. So, by the way, just for you guys to remember, this is on the bottom down there is the Telegram room that you can kind of go on and get a lot more information. You can go on to the website and you can download a free 14-page NESARA thing. You can always donate to the ministry. I appreciate that. You don't have to. This is never ever required, but you can donate to the ministry with that. I never asked for money for this. I never advertise, by the way. I never sell the QFS. Please do not say that. Okay. I know that you might get some fakes uh, on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. I don't sell anything on TikTok. I do not sell anything any other way. You cannot buy the QFS. You can't do any of those kinds of things. Okay. We are going to talk about the QFS a little bit today. We're going to talk about a lot of that kind of stuff, but you cannot buy that. Okay. That is all fake. Okay. The QFS, in essence, has already been set up for you, but you can't access it yet. Those are fakers that are trying to do that. Okay. Trust me, they will be caught. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about real life debt forgiveness. We're going to talk about some samples, and then I'm going to explain them a little bit more as we go through that here. So let me kind of flip to that little area with that too. So these are real life debt forgiveness stories here. So I'm going to kind of bring this up here, but I want to talk about why these are the real life debt forgiveness kind of stories here, why it kind of brought me to this. Okay, so many people, know my story already. When I had been learning about this NESARA piece without really knowing I was learning about it in 2011. Okay, I was learning about these what I always call them the anti-cabal families from 2011, and I didn't know what I was learning. Okay, I mean sometimes you're learning something and you're going, I remember there's this one guy in algebra one, I think it was algebra two class, and he kept asking questions like, when are we going to use this in real world? And I remember hearing that over and over again. The reality is, algebra 2, you use all the time if you're, dealing with running a business. I mean, you have to use algebra 2 a lot if you run a business, if you're doing accounting, if you're having to calculate some slightly difficult things, just slightly difficult things. We're not talking about calculus. We're just talking about calculating things. And I remember hearing that one, and it always stuck in the back of my head. Okay. So, sometimes when you're learning something, you don't realize why you're learning that. Well, that happened to me back in 2011. Okay. And I was learning about what the anti cabal families were trying to do for America and, frankly, the world. They were talking about the gold backed currency. They were talking about bringing in freedom for the world with that too. And it came into fruition. Now, it's not easy to see this here. It's not perfect because they've kind of blacked out some areas. But in, I think it was, I want to say April of 2011, 2020, I was refining my house because, we're like, there was a refiability that was going to drop like 150 bucks or so on the house. And so I'm like, well, sure, I'm going to do that. And it was going to be like 275. Like, of course I'm going to want to do that. Right. And because of COVID, it was like dropping it. And it took like 3.5 months. And I didn't have to pay my mortgage during that time frame. Frankly, I couldn't pay it even if I wanted to because there was no one to pay it to. Because the payment was in between companies. It was, and there's no one to pay it to. It was real funny in that time frame. Now, I get this incredibly strange letter, and I'm going to kind of read it to you. The ownership of your first mortgage with the original balance, blah, 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 was transferred to the home loans. And it was Fannie Mae. And I'm sorry, I kind of shouldn't have really pushed that out. Now, what you got to know about Fannie Mae is Fannie Mae was the center of a firestorm issue in 2008 because they had pushed these really gross loans in 2008 and earlier. By the way, mostly in 2004 and earlier in the time frame. What they did is they did these really gross APRs that would have like a 5-year APR arm. And then at the end of that arm, you would, in their interest only arms, and then people couldn't afford them. So they were, so for instance, you would come up with these interest only arms in 2001, 2005, 2003. And so you would have this $1,000, mortgage, for instance, and it was interest only. And they would say, well, it's a 5-year kind of arm, a 30-year fixed mortgage, but a 5-year arm. And at the end of that arm, well, then you just refi it to a new house, or you just buy a new house because it's a lot more. Okay, this was part of the mortgage crisis in 2008. Okay, and Fannie Mae was pushing this just as much as anyone else, but they got actually subsumed by the Fed. Now, what happened is that into that time frame, people couldn't afford the $2,000 a month payment. I mean, it went from $1,000 to $2,000 month payment, and they were like, "Oh my God, I couldn't afford that." Or they had a $2,000 month payment that went to $3,000, and so people just walked away from their houses. And that's what caused the mortgage crisis of 2008, 2009. This is the sick thing that they did. And the banks got all these houses for free. This is how sick they did it. This is part of what they accomplished. Now, when I find out this crazy letter that in essence the Fannie Mae had bought my house, but they weren't keeping my house, which means the Fed had my loan in essence. But the payment point was happening through this particular loan company. Now, by the way, that is not necessarily unique, but the point that was unique, and by the way, this actually was just a sign, a signal from Trump to tell people that all loans really originate, these big loans originate with the 13 major banks. And this is the bankruptcy reorganization of America specifically, and the world too, that all these loans are fraudulent. This is what we talk about with debt forgiveness issues. These loans are fraudulent. This is part of Executive Order 13818 that was in December of 2017. And this is part of what they are doing legally on contract law with utilizing the 14th Amendment under the third section, that we're not going to have to pay back these loans. This is why the debt forgiveness is the way that it is. And this is one of these crazy types of letters that for a guy like me who have refied and bought houses have never received anything like this. Now, I talked to several other people and they had mortgage people and they go, I'd never seen this kind of letter. And they only started seeing this kind of letter in 2020. So that's what got kind of craziness that came out of this time frame. Okay, so let me share with you a little bit more. So I want to share with you a few of these other stories. Now I'm just going to kind of back out of this one here. We're going to pull back this one out, and I'm going to just talk to you a few stories. I wish I had all of these stories, in the paper form here that I was kind of bringing in, but I want to tell you the first story here. So in 2021, we started having some NESARA meetings in my Oklahoma office. Okay. So this woman comes into my office and she tells this rip-roaring hysterical story. She's a great storyteller. Not okay, we're not talking about fiction. Okay. Telling her about her husband. And her husband doesn't believe in this NESARA stuff, right? Calls it NESARA crap. And he gets on the phone because he's not getting his payment for his new Toyota truck. I believe it's a Toyota truck, and SUV truck, whatever. And he goes, and he called the bank, and it's a local bank where they finance the truck, right? And he's on the phone, and he's like, "Why haven't you got me the loan, or why haven't you got me the payment?" And they're like, and so they're, and he's like, "What? I don't know. It's paid off." "What do you mean it's paid off? Give me the loan. I mean, why haven't I gotten the?" And he's looking for the little, the credit checks. Normally, some people just pay it online, but he's looking for the little bills, and he's not getting them for some reason. I mean, this is an older guy too. He's in his 60s or something like that. But he's kind of old school in his little thing. He gets little checks and sends it off, and somehow they're like bouncing on him some way. And he's got perfect credit and everything, and it's all coming back to him, and he's just getting madder and madder. She's trying to calm him down. Just calm down, honey. And what's happening is the bank shows that the loan is satisfied. They don't understand exactly how it's satisfied, but it's satisfied. And so he's like, "I don't get it." I mean, and the bank doesn't fully get it, that, he doesn't get it. He's so mad about it. And she's telling a story, and we're just bawling laughing, when we're listening to the story. But this is an example of the same kind of thing. I want to tell you also about a relative of mine. I wish I had her paperwork on this, but she had this from Wells Fargo. She had a huge combine, and she owed about $7,500 left on the combine, and she's making approximately $500 a month payment. And so she tells me, and she calls me up, and just like, she's big part of, and she's very, very awakened. Okay, so she knows all this stuff, and she's telling me the story about this stuff, and she goes, "Scott, I got to tell you, like they wipe out my payment." And so she goes, I do my banking with them, and I do, this particular loan. And she goes, "It's gone." Now, what you guys got to know is Wells Fargo is part of the Fed. I mean, it's part of the Fed banks. Okay. And Wells Fargo is one of the first of the banks, of the Fed banks, that have gone through the bankruptcy reorganization. Okay. And they have wiped out most of their mortgage department and their credit department much of the way. This is really upsetting people, the normies of the world and the economists, who are freaking out about this kind of thing. By the way, in Congress, they were belittling these people, talking about Basel III compliance, saying that it's going to harm the economy in this way. And they're talking about this kind of thing, but they don't get it. But you people who are understanding NESARA kind of debt forgiveness are seeing this other kind of thing. So you got like competing worlds of the normies and the NESARA thing smashing up against one another, messing with your mentality, right? And so you guys gotta like be in peace. And by the way, that was literally the words I had, at 5 in the morning. I'm out, and you guys know that I get in a lot of prayer in the morning. And I had 3 words: peace, stillness, and rest. And those are I'm in, audiology, medical profession, so I kind of eat my lunch in like 5 minutes. I mean, I'm not the guy that like eats lunch at a restaurant like stuff like that. I'm like, look, go, 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 kind of thing, right? But that's what's happening, is that kind of rest kind of thing that we need to do. And when you see that kind of crashing of mentalities, messes you up. But guess what? This kind of stuff is going on. Let me show you. Let me kind of know that went off trail here, but let me show you Dana. Now this is all, these are out of order. So this is Dana's very, very recent ones. Let me bring this back up here. Dana just sent this to me. So the date is 11/13/23. Now, I had a guy on Telegram. I just put this out there the other day, and he goes, "Well, I don't know who this Dana is." Like, you're not going to know. I'm blanking out her information. Sorry. Now, this is just one tiny one of her loans. It's a Lands End loan, and her current balance is 0. Thank you for recent communication. We reviewed your records and provide update. We have closed your account, ceased collections. Ceased collections. You have no further obligations regarding this account. You what? Do you understand what's happening here? Let me explain what Dana has been doing. Dana literally communicates with me by email at least once a month. And she's really good about it, really nice about this. Dana's like, Dr. Scott, can you give me some hope that things are happening? And this is one of the things that she's behind on. And she's just like, and then she sends me this. And then I got permission to share this with you. How cool is that? Out of the blue, one of her debts are gone. There is no reason for it to be gone, but it's gone. I'm pausing there for dramatic effect. Let's show you an even better one. Lisa tells me about this one, and this one was back 2 years ago. Every one of these, Farmers National, Ally, Fifth Bank, Auto, Capital One, Auto, People's, all these different ones. These are credit inquiries. Now, let me tell you, these are credit inquiries for different things. But she had a Capital One auto finance loan. I think it was a Jeep that she had. And then she had a loan over here, I think with NCC, another auto loan or something like that. And then she had something else. And she had a credit card. And the credit card use is 0%. Her credit report went to 0. Her accounts closed, and then she checked on it, and she checked on it just last year too. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. These are all closed accounts. Fingerhut, Mission, Web Bank. She's in the Oregon area. Capital One Auto Finance. And you're going, what? I'm sorry, pull that off there. This is Lisa's full forgiveness. Full on forgiveness. This had happened a year and a half ago. I think it was like in the end of the year, and then she checked on it last year too, and so these are the kinds of things that are happening with that too. I'm going to pull this off the screen here for a second. And you go, why is it happening? It's because the quantum financial system has been up since we perceive around August of 2020. It's been happening in concert with the SWIFT system, which is the Fed system. And so it's been sampling. So, and I've been talking about this with you. And when that happens, when it happens, what it does is we see things like this, where full credit reports get boom, and sometimes the full credit report gets happening, and then other times, I'm sorry, let me go backward here. You just get one of a piece of credit that gets knocked out, okay, because it's sampling in there. Another time you get the Toyota story like this, or another time you get my relatives Wells Fargo thing, um, or you get Dana's little thing, or you get Lisa's full forgiveness kind of thing. Okay, sometimes you get like part of it, sometimes you get full of it, and some of you guys are going to be frustrated with that too. We're going to talk a little bit about that here, but basically, guys, the reality is what it's doing is sampling. And now I want to share with you, if you had a system that had to be worldwide into the system, and this is not mark of the beast. We've talked about this. If you want to look at that, I have many videos about this. Okay, this is going to be sovereign to each nation. Okay, America's going to have her own QFS. You're not going to have a mark of the beast. This is just the same. I mean, it's going to be like a social security number that you already have. The same thing. You're already in the system. Okay, it's not asking for you to do anything more or give away your first child or any kind of crazy stuff. You're already in the system. Just like you have a credit report, you already have this kind of thing. Okay. So you're not having to worship Moloch or any other crazy kind of thing. Is not Great Reset or any of that kind of stuff. The quantum financial system is constitutionally based. It's done by the white hats. Okay. Study the QFS. We have talked a lot about that. Okay. There are people who have had conversations about that. Actually, on my channel, I brought on Dallas, and he and I have talked a lot about that as well, with that kind of thing. But be calm about this, okay, guys? This is trying to like release each nation. Mexico will have her own QFS. Congo will have her own QFS. South Africa will have her own QFS system for her own people, and will have her own treasury. Will be gold backed. Okay. Iraq will have her own QFS and her own gold-backed Iraqi note or dinar, for instance. Okay, so that's what they do. And why am I sharing this stuff with you? It's not to make you make you go. And some of you are going to be like kind of pissed off about this, because I've seen a lot of people get pissed off about this. Well, shit happened to me. Now, if you're feeling that way, I'm going to recommend you look at my fairness video that I'm going to actually enter in the descriptions. Okay. And if you want to know a little bit more, I'm also going to enter in the descriptions. You need to search in NESARA Explained. Okay. But let me enter in, and I'm going to go backward in here, and we're going to kind of move forward into something that I actually put into a system. It's called belief and faith. And let me explain this just a little bit. This is what I'm trying to like enter into your brain here a little bit. Okay. Faith is called pistis in the word. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the promise of things unseen. Faith is a future thing. Some of you, most of you haven't had that. Okay. Dana, my relative, Lisa, our Toyota bank story, and many other people have had this, right? So, but if you haven't had this yet, faith is this future hope that you're having of that debt forgiveness. And so when it happens, you have this belief system because it creates belief. And what it does, and this is what I'm trying to help you with. Okay. So I'm giving you some substance of this kind of thing, of that future. And once you have that substance and you can hold on to that faith, what you have when you have that, and see Lisa, for instance, who had that full forgiveness, now turns that belief into belief, increases your faith. That increases it, and it becomes this circular or cyclical kind of issue. But what you need to do is put your hope in the middle, which is your expectation. Now, by the way, guys, you don't have to have it happen to you to actually increase your faith and belief. You can actually, you don't have to have something occur, but you can actually have your faith occur inside of it. Do you know that the people, the Old Testament saints would say, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? They were going, hey man, I know the stories of Isaac, Jacob, what they were basically saying is, those stories, I'm going to take those stories and I'm going to like cast my lot or cast my fishing reel upon those stories and say, I'm going to claim those stories for me. That's what they were doing when they said, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. They were saying, take those stories and turn them into belief in my life. You guys can do that as well. And when you do that, you start having belief. And when that belief happens, it turns it into faith. And I just did that this last couple months. I had an issue I had been believing for down the road, but then God said, it's time to actually step out in faith to accomplish that. And it was a very big step of faith that I accomplished in early November that I thought I had to wait to do. And I had put off. And God said, now is the time to accomplish that. And yet I did it. I did it even though I wasn't really wanting to do it yet, but I did it, and God met me and gave me the finances to accomplish that, and gave me supernatural kind of finances to accomplish that I could never have afforded, and way over met me in that kind of way. See, and that's the kind of thing that happens because I've not had the finances at all to do that. And so he supernaturally met me in that way. And so that's the kind of thing that happens. So faith breeds that belief, but you've got to shove your hope in the middle between those things. And too many times you take your hope and shove it way out over here, and you let it sit out there like the little sheep out there with the wolves, and let the wolves feed on your hope. And that's just not the way it's supposed to be, guys. You've got to understand this process, and I've shared it with you multiple times. So as you're thinking through this whole thing, these real world debt stories can be internalized for you. They can come in there, and you can say, hey, listen, that story of Dana or that story of Lisa, I'm saying, I'm going to claim that kind of stuff because that's important. Those are great stories, and revel in that. Say, thank you for Lisa's story. Thank you for the things that have happened for those people. And Lord God, I'm just claiming that, and I'm just thanking you. I'm living in that kind of joy, even though it doesn't really happen. And I'm going to give you one last scripture that will mess your mind up. Jesus is talking, Paul is talking about Jesus, and he says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. Listen to that again. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. How do you endure something that is unendurable? You endure it because of what you see on the other side of this. And that's where we are, guys. And so once you understand that point, it becomes much more powerful for you to see. So guys, I'm here for you. I really am. I'm trying to like build up your faith. I believe we're close. I wish I could have been, perfectly right on this stuff. Again, we're close. We've got military, we've got financial people. These cabal cannot hold out much longer. They cannot. We're seeing them crumble left and right. They don't have much hope, but you have the hope in the Lord. Thank you so much.